In March, I did a beta launch. So I launched just to my Instagram followers and my email list. I didn't have a sales page for my program. I didn't do a webinar. I followed the launch plan in my Momentum Club. So it was just under a 2-week launch. It went very well. I was stoked. I was absolutely stoked. That was actually a $10,000 launch in March of doing things very imperfectly, to be honest. But I did show up consistently, which I'm very proud of. So yes, just get your first launch out of the way so you've got the program done, because then the second launch, you already have the program there. That was huge for me. So I did 2 webinars and ended up doing a $15,000 launch. Again, very happy with that.
Hi, I'm Charlene Oy, dietitian turned business and marketing coach, and you're listening to the Nutrition Business Show. I've been a dietitian for over a decade, generated millions online, and we've helped thousands of health professionals. So if you're looking for a smarter way to grow your nutrition practice and create online programs to scale your business more sustainably, then you're in the right place. So let's dive in. Hey, welcome back to episode 7 of the Nutrition Business Show. Now, today's episode is a really special one because I've brought in one of my long-term clients, Kate Spina, IBS Nutritionist, for a launch debrief so you can take a peek behind the curtains and hear the strategies and mindset behind her most recent 5-figure launch. Now, I know that there is a lot of talk out there in the online space right now about how the economy is making it harder for nutrition practitioners to get clients, how webinars are dead, and Instagram just doesn't seem to work anymore. You're going to see why all of these claims are not true and how our clients are still building thriving businesses and having successful launches. Now, we're going to break down all the stats, what Kate sold, how much she made, and what her conversion rates were like. And today's episode is for you if you're at the start of your business journey and you have a long-term goal of creating an online program. Or you might be someone who's done a couple of launches now, but sense that things are different. So you're looking for the latest strategy that's working. Or you may be someone who's done a webinar before and it didn't go as planned. So you're wondering what went wrong. No matter which stage you're at, I know that you're going to get a lot out of today's podcast episode. So without further ado, let's get into Kate's launch debrief. I'm so excited to have you here with us today, Kate. Thank you for taking the time. Why don't we kick off with just you introducing yourself to our audience?
Hi, Charlene. It's my pleasure. I'm Kate. I'm a gut health nutritionist and I work with people struggling with IBS, SIBO, food intolerances, or suspect bacterial overgrowths or imbalances. My practice is entirely online, so I see people all around the globe.
So we've been working together since September 2023. I was having a look through earlier and you started in the Momentum Club and now you're a private client. But when you first came to me, your practice looked a little different. So why don't you share with everyone how you started and what that was like back then?
Yes, it seems like ages ago now, but last year, so last September, but leading up to that, I had a busy online practice. I changed to completely online during COVID, but so I had a busy practice. So that was great, but I was working long hours, especially a couple of really long days each week and then fitting in consults over the rest of my week, long clinic hours, lots of deadlines, trying to fit in large corporate nutrition projects as well, because I do some of those each year, but they pop up generally without warning. So I was having this really busy practice, long hours, client deadlines, a profitable, interesting corporate nutrition project would come my way, and then I'd be panicking trying to fit it in and stressing out. And I'd reach the capacity of my client hours. I was just like, this is really exciting. I can see that I can still grow with my work, but I just don't have the time to do it. I'm feeling a little bit nauseous thinking about it actually at the moment because I was just burnt out, peak stress. it was not nice.
And I think it's worth mentioning as well, Kate, that you're a mum too. So your schedule was already packed.
The mum guilt was high. I think the reason, because I'd been following you for a while, and I was thinking, I'll get over this busy period. I'll get past this corporate nutrition project. I'll get past the next packed 3 months. But I think I got to the point where I'd been through school holidays and I'd spent so much time saying to my kids, and they're quite little, they're like between 7 and 12, I'm just going to answer this email. I'm just going to do this and then we'll spend time together. And it just felt like I was pulling time from them. I was trying to create patches of time that I just didn't have. And I was just so sick of it. And it just felt like there needed to be a better way. I knew I couldn't continue like that for too much longer without getting really sick. And that sort of felt very inauthentic from me. You'd get that as well, Charlene, as a health practitioner. You serve other people when you look after your own health. And I was getting to the point where I was starting to feel a bit like a lie.
Yeah, I can totally understand what you're saying. I hear that a lot from health professionals that we work with as well. We spend our days working with people, helping them prioritize their health and nutrition, but yet our health is taken a backseat because we get so busy, stuck in the doing, stuck in working in our business, helping clients, and we forget to fill our own cup. So I think this is such a good kind of a reminder for us all to take a moment to think about and reflect upon, are we happy with where we're at in our business and life at the moment? Is that really fulfilling for us? Is that the way that we want to continue growing our business? Because I think for a lot of us, we built our business so we can have more flexibility, more time with our kids. But as the business grows, we start to see another problem where we are so busy with our business that we forget about all the other things. And that's when practitioners like you come to us for support to learn how to pivot their business a little bit and change their model of practice so they start to get back more time in their schedule. So that leads me into the next question. I'm sure our audience will really love to hear, what does your business look like at the moment? We made a few changes to how you work with clients. So let's talk about that, how you work with clients right now. You were offering one-on-one consults, and what do you have in your practice now?
Not even a year later, my business looks so much different. And my life actually looks so much different. I have to say that. You can't separate the two, which is just lovely. When we started working together last September, one of the first things you recommended I do was put together a consult package, which I did. So that's a 6-month consult package. I still offer that to some clients who have particular situations where they would benefit from that, usually with people with multiple health complications or very fragile mental health alongside their gut health issues. But we did that last year. So that, first of all, streamlined things for me because it made me take the things I was doing with each client anyway and just standardize it and put it into a 6-month package. From then, I developed that into my group program. In amongst that, I created a 4-week constipation guide as well. And now my client hours have halved, my face-to-face client hours have halved, but there is still potential for growth. So I'm no longer trying to steal time, mainly from my kids or my downtime. So my client hours have halved. I'm much more relaxed. I now have the time to do my CPE, to further my knowledge, to serve my individual clients and my program clients so much better, to actually work on my business rather than just treading water, making sure that my treatment plans are out and my supplement protocols are up to date and my invoices are done and everything is just calmer. And I can plan for my work life. I can plan for my home life. I can work on my business and plan for growth and how to support my clients so much better, which was a really surprising thing for me. I hadn't even got to that point in my practice last year where I was thinking about how do I support my clients better. I was just like, how do I make this work? And as a sole income provider, how do I reach the income that I need to reach to pay for what looks like upcoming braces, or, all the things that goes with having kids. I've got 2 out of 3 kids needing braces. How do I pay for that?
Oh, gosh, it's going to be very expensive, especially in Australia.
I do that, but not die as I'm walking to the dentist from burnout. So just those little things that as parents we all think about. But for me, thinking about it was just increasing my guilt. And I just felt like I was going round and round in circles. So what I know really changed for me is because I knew all the things I needed to do. I got my constipation guide out. I then developed my program, and it really just felt like, rather than being overwhelmed by, I have all these things I want to do, but I'm just so busy in my clinic. Getting those consult packages up allowed me a little bit of space, just some breathing space to go, I have time to do a 4-week plan for people, and then I have time to develop my program. And now, not even a year later, my client face-to-face hours have halved. Instead of putting consults in over 4 or 5 days a week, I see people on 2.5 days a week. I have a whole day for working on my business. I have a whole day where I just use for how can I improve my program? How can I support my clients better? What are people asking for on Instagram? How can I be a better practitioner, which I wasn't even there at that point.
Thank you for sharing all of that, Kate. I think there are so many things that you've said there that I really want to spend some time unpacking because, first of all, I just want to acknowledge that, Kate, you were a busy practitioner. You already had clients, your books was filling up, you had other corporate projects going on as well. So there is so much. And I think that's the first thing that I want to chat about. Like, how did you find time to even go create a program? That's where I think a lot of practitioners are stuck. They know, great, like I have so many ideas. I think that's one of the things about being an entrepreneur. You just kind of have all these ideas going through our head and we're very ambitious. We want lots done. So how did you actually find that time to go create your online program? So you did the package first, which is what we did, and then you had to turn that into what I teach as a hybrid program. So you made it into a hybrid group program. There was a course, there was some group coaching sessions for your clients to support them. And then I think you offer one-on-one session as well to tailor the information.
Yes.
So I would love for you to share with our listeners, how did you find time in your busy calendar to create the online course?
I blocked it off in advance, Charlene. I just committed to the fact that this was going to make my life so much easier. It helped having the consult packages there and selling some of those. So financially, I wasn't thinking I have to make every hour count in my week. So having the consult packages and selling those so that they better covered the amount of time I actually put into client treatment plans and support. So that gave me a little bit of a buffer. But then I went through my calendar and I blocked off a whole day a week just to work on my program. So I gave myself more time than I thought I needed. And I was so glad that I did because things pop up. And I was disciplined as well. I tend to be a perfectionist and I tried to soften my grip on that a lot. So that worked. A lot of practitioners, we have those resources that we give to clients anyway. So I went back through and updated those. Like we all have those things that we have at hand. So that helped with what do I need to do? What else really helped? Oh, the planning out the strategy that we discussed in Momentum Club about goals, about when I would have program assets done, when I would record videos. Also, I did not have my program completed before I launched. I had it half completed.
Okay.
So I definitely wanted to have a percentage of it completed before I launched, but I knew that if I had it in my head that it had to be 100% done and 100% perfect, then I would never launch that program.
Yeah, it would take too much time to even get there, isn't it, to have the program done? And so one of the strategies that we teach inside Momentum is let's beta test it. But we're beta testing in a way where you already have a solid idea that this program works, this program sells, because you've been validating it through the consult packages. So we're using that framework that you've developed in the consult package and turning it into a different format when you work with clients. You've got the online course there and you're creating as your clients are going through the program. And I always say, you just got to stay 2 steps ahead of them. That's it. We don't need to have everything done, because that is one of the biggest barrier I think a lot of us have in our heads. Oh, I need to create like all these modules and lessons. It's just going to take far too long. We'll put that aside. We'll do it later. And that later just never comes because, we just keep getting busier and busier. So this way of launching where you have got some modules done, you've got half of it done. So at least when your clients are coming in, they already have things to go through and work through. And then you're just staying ahead of them.
Exactly that. So that took so much pressure off me. But absolutely, I just knew I would not find the time to do it. I had to create the time. I had to block it off and be aware that in 3 months' time, it was going to pay off for me.
Yeah, love it. So it's being really intentional about our schedule and blocking time out ahead. So I hope that everyone's taking notes about this, because sometimes we keep saying to ourselves, we have no time to do something. But when we actually go through and make time for it, it's the same as creating content for our social media, writing that email that you want to send out to your list. It's about blocking time out on our calendar. So we're making space for it. So it happens. And I love that structure that you put in place, that you gave yourself that space in your calendar, knowing that it's a chicken and egg problem. Do we do this first or that? But once you block out the time, you have your program out, then you know that it's going to help you and reap the benefits long term, where now you're reducing your client hours by half. And that is huge, like having that space in your calendar now to go, I can work today if I want to. If not, my kids have got school holidays. I can just take time off to spend time with them. And we just finished school holidays in Australia. So how was that like for you? I'm curious to hear 1 year later, how did your schedule change?
It was so good. Like last year, school holidays was so stressful for me because I would reduce my clinic hours a little bit, but it was this juggle and something would always crop up. Like I would always, like people would reschedule and I'd end up being busier, or corporate work would pop up. That was so stressful for me. This year, both school holidays, I've taken the second week off. I do minimal work the first week. The last school holidays, we finished those a couple of weeks back, and they were just so relaxing. It was a real measure of my success. And I think one of the first things that I realized that I'd made actually the right decision last year, and I don't know if I've told you this, Charlene, but it was I think the first school holidays, that would have been like September, October last year, but even it was like I would have been a month into Momentum Club, and I realized that I could afford to take a day off in the school holidays to spend with my eldest son, and we had a day together. And even just that, like a month in, I was like, this is success for me. And now, less than a year later, I've already planned out the rest of the school holidays for this year. I'm having a whole week off with my kids, and I've made sure that the week leading up to it, I'm not burdened with work, because that's what used to happen. I would do so much work the week before and then I would just be a mess. And now it just looks like these really relaxing periods throughout the year where they're my downtime, and then I have busier periods. So it's
I
just
love that, Kate. I love that for you. And I'm so happy that you got to this stage. And this is where, we all need to ask ourselves, what is our metric of success? It doesn't always have to be how much you're making, right? Like, yes, like getting to that revenue milestone is great, but how you get there and what you have back in your hands when you get there, I think it's so critical and so important to consider. And for you, and for me as well, I'm exactly the same. I'm a mom, like school holidays. Even if I want to work, it's tricky because, I've got my child at home and she'll come knocking and she wants to spend time with me. So it's about prioritizing that and understanding, like, what do you sometimes have to let go and change in order to get the results that you want? And that result, the outcome, can be how much money you're making or even how much time you're getting back in your hands to spend time with your kids. Or for some people, it's going back to the gym and training again. A lot of us are very health focused. And so that's why we do what we do. And having that time to look after our health, again, I think that is another way to look at success in our business. So yeah, I'm really happy for you, Kate, how far you've come. It's been a year, but a lot of these things, like you're already seeing the changes as you're moving. And the next thing, I want to talk about, Kate, is that You went from doing consult packages, just looking at the evolution of your practice. So you went from doing consult packages to offering the hybrid group program. And then you expanded your offer suite. You've got that mini course, which is, how long is that again?
Just a little 4-week plan to reduce
4 weeks.
constipation. So it's
Yeah.
a little ebook, very accessible.
Yeah. So it's self-paced, like people can buy that on the back end. Yeah. So you've got all of those built out and you've done a couple of beta launches. If you could take us through like the process. So when you first work with people in consult packages, then you turn that into that course, right? And then you're launching as you're going. So tell us about the launch that happened earlier this year, in 2024, earlier this year. You did a beta launch on Instagram before you did the webinar launch recently. And I really want to spend some time after this breaking down your webinar launch and taking our audience behind the scenes and just looking at the stats. Because a lot of people are saying webinar is dead, it's not working anymore, it's overdone, but it's not the case for you. Webinars are not dead. So I want to spend some time talking about that shortly. But talk to us about this beta launch that you did first before you went to doing a webinar.
Okay, so in March, I did a beta launch. So I launched just to my Instagram followers and my email list. I didn't have a sales page for my program. I didn't do a webinar. I just talked about it a lot. I emailed my email list. I spoke about it on Instagram. I followed the launch plan in Momentum Club in terms of talking to my people about the problems they're facing and they're struggling with and how I could provide a solution with my program. So I did it was just under a 2-week launch. It went very well. I was stoked. I was absolutely stoked. That was actually a $10,000 launch in March of doing things very imperfectly, to be honest. But I did show up consistently, which I'm very proud of. I really enjoyed that, actually, in the end. It went really smoothly. It went really well.
Yeah. And launches don't have to be stressful. It doesn't need to have all the bells and whistles every time. And I wanted to really highlight here, you said you did it imperfectly. You took imperfect action. You didn't have a sales page. You didn't have fancy webinars or anything. You just basically spent time, first of all, building your audience, and then you showed up and shared with them what you have on offer. And people didn't need fancy things to buy from you. After all, what they wanted is the solution that you offer, which is how you can help them through your program. So that's step one. When we go launch a hybrid program, you test it out again. Yeah, you just want to put the idea out there, have some people work with you. And you had a 10K launch. And that was before your course was completed too.
Oh, yeah. Course not completed, no sales page, no webinar. I was really happy with that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
incredible.
I was really happy with that.
And then you continued creating your program from there, and you did a webinar launch in July. Is that right? Yeah. It started in July. It seems like
no.
ages ago now.
Yeah, it was the end of June, I think, isn't that?
Mid-June, sorry.
Yeah, mid-June. So that was a webinar launch. So looking back at my initial launch now, that looks quite basic, but I used the same framework in that I was following the launch plan from a mentor club anyway for just my first Instagram launch. So I had that framework anyway in how I communicate different parts of my program to the people that it would serve best. So that was great. And this time I wasn't creating my program at the same time. So that was awesome. So yes, just get your first launch out of the way so you've got the program done, because then the second launch, you already have the program there. That was huge for me. So I did 2 webinars and ended up doing a $15,000 launch. Again, very happy with that. What else did I do that was differently? Still don't have a sales page. That's on my list for next week, Charlotte. But the webinars went well. The other thing that I did differently this time was I did consistent Instagram lives every week leading up to my launch and up until the end. And they were fabulous for me. It felt very authentic. It felt like a really lovely way to talk to the people who could benefit from my services, to understand their questions in a really relaxed way. It's good practice for webinars anyway. And that's something that I'm having a little break from now with school holidays, but I'll start those up again next week. So that would probably be the biggest difference is the webinar launch.
Yeah.
It's there. and the Instagram lives going into my pre-launch period leading
Yeah.
up to
Amazing. Yeah, and that's one thing that we're certainly noticing as well with the whole online landscape changing since 2020. Obviously, there's been a lot of people popping up in the online space, starting to practice, and the space is noisier. And one of the most common questions I get is, how do I stand out online amongst a sea of other practitioners out there? And the biggest thing that I hope you take away from this is that you got to build trust with your audience. They need to know who you are, what you do, and why you're the best person to help them, right? Why would they choose you amongst all the other nutritionists or dietitians out there? And in order to do that, we got to show up. We got to show our face on social media and talk to them and connect with them. And the extra touch points is what we see as being so important right now. Like, people have questions, right? Why is your program the best for them? How is that really going to help them? And they have all these questions. And so spending some time connecting with them, explaining, getting to know them, explaining how you can help them is going to make all the difference to your launch results. And you had an incredible launch.
I was really happy with it. But yes, Charlene, since working with you, I now use story questions and polls, I would say 5 days out of 7, in terms of just finding out what people want and then understanding what they need and then delivering in a way where they can see the value from it. But yeah, I had a great launch. So shall we go through some stats?
Yes. Now, first of all, let's give people the big picture so they know what was the key outcome from your launch. So let's talk about your revenue from this launch. So you mentioned 11 new program members to your program. So how much is your program and how much did you make?
I was offering the program at a webinar offer of $1,480, so $1,480 with this launch. So I welcomed 11 program members into that. So 14,400, couple of payment plans in there. And out of that, though, I had 2 extra clients who applied for the program but were better suited to my individual consult package. So that same as my program, but in individual consults over 6 months. Overall, that ended up being over a $17,000 launch for that month.
Insane, mind blowing. And this is just from a 2-week launch period. You had spent some time doing calls after just to make sure you have the right clients coming to your program. But for a lot of people, that is what they make in 2 months or 3 months. So these are insane results. And I really want to take you guys now behind the scenes just to look at how Kate did it, like what was her webinar metrics and all of that. So let's first of all start with your goal for this webinar, Kate. What were you expecting?
So I wanted to improve on my last launch. I wanted to hit 15,000 revenues, and I did, so that was great. For the webinar registration, I was hoping for 200, and we spoke at the beginning of that registration phase, and I only had 50 signed up, and I was not stressing, but I was disappointed with that. But I just stuck to my plan, stuck to the schedule, stuck to my launch plan. In the end, I had 156 register, which I was happy with. So a sign-up rate of 57.
Still very close to your goal.
It was good. Out of those people who registered, I had 44% show up live, which was lovely.
44%. That is amazing, because typically, and especially with today's climate, what we set as the benchmark for webinar show up rate, just to give everyone some context here, is 30%. So you had 44% of those people show up live. That's incredible. We know when they're live, they're more engaged.
So lovely. And both my webinars had this really lovely, engaged group of people who were absolutely perfect for the information they were going to get. And they asked some really interesting questions, and they got so much benefit out of just the webinars as well. So it was such a lovely experience. Leading up to the launch, I hear so many practitioners get really stressed about doing webinar launches. You are there, even just in the webinar, you are helping people. And that's just such a lovely feeling. So cling to that. It was a really lovely experience, both of the webinars. From the webinars, I had 17 application calls. So that was 25% in terms of that statistic. So that was above average as well. I was very happy with that. And then my ultimate conversion rate from the people who registered to joining my program was 7%.
So just to repeat that and break it down for everyone. So Kate had 156 people registered for her webinar. Out of that, she had 44% of people show up live, which is an incredible number because, like I said earlier, the more people we can get to show up, the more engaged and on board they're going to be. And then you get to answer the questions and help them and share with them your offer of how you can help them in your program. So from there on, you had 17 people applied to have a call with you. And out of the 17, you had 11 people convert. So that is an amazing conversion rate, Kate, from your webinar, from your call. So let me just work it out. So 11 out of 17, that is almost a 65% conversion on your sales calls. That's an incredible number. Again, most people will probably only get 40% to 50%. Industry standards about 40%.
And out of those 17 calls, there was 11 new members, but 2 of them I didn't feel were right for the program. They just needed a bit more cocooning, so they went into my consult packages. That initial disappointment at not quite getting the registration numbers I wanted to ended up being, I think, quality registrations rather than quantity. I know you want both, but that was the lesson I took from that. But yeah, very happy with that.
It just goes to show as well, like with such an engaged audience, it led to quality applicants, and you're getting on the call with people who already know about your offer, your program, and they know you. So they're not complete strangers when they land on the call. And that's one of the things that we encourage our clients to do as well, to screen people, to give them plenty of opportunities to get to know you so that when they're on the call, they already semi-converted in a sense. They know they want to work with you. They just have a few more questions to answer. You want to talk about like the payment options and things like that. And that is why our clients have such incredible conversion rates on the call. So that's amazing. And yeah, I'm so incredibly happy for you, Kate. Not only did you enroll clients for your group program, you had some upsells in a sense to your one-on-one package as well. So it's a win-win. They get to benefit from the best coaching container with you, and you get to upsell people. So that led to an overall launch result of 17.5K in revenue. So happy. How do you feel now after done the launch, Kate? Let's talk about some of the launch debrief in a sense, like having gone through now a few launches and this being your first webinar launch, what did you feel led to the success of your webinar?
Oh, that's a good question. Can I say module 5 of Momentum Club? The webinar launch module, the entire module. I worked through that step by step. I've done webinars for corporate clients in the past, so I felt confident doing the webinar, but setting up the tech behind it and the registration page was initially overwhelming for me. I literally just watched the video in Momentum Club and you walked me through it. So that helped, not worrying about the tech. That was just, it took me longer than I thought it would, but that absolutely helped. Using the Momentum Club framework for launches that I'd already used, I'm having the emails from last launch that I repurposed and put more of myself into. And having done the launch in March, seeing how my group members have made progress in that time and bringing that confidence to this launch. So don't put off doing your first launch, because no matter what happens, you will bring so much more to your second one, because now how I feel is that each launch is just practice for the next one being better, me supporting my clients better. One thing I was really committed to during my webinar launch was not neglecting my current group members. So still showing up for them in our Slack community, making sure I was still really present for them. And that felt really good because I then had the time to do that. And so yes, that absolutely helped. The Instagram lives helped as well.
Yeah. So you're showing up a lot, Kate, on social media, on your emails, on the webinar. How did you feel as part of that process? Sometimes I hear people saying, oh, I just feel that people must be so sick of hearing me talk and seeing my face and hearing me sell this thing. I feel so salesy. How did you feel during that process?
This is something I addressed in my first launch in March, because I was like, I'm just going to show up every single day on stories and I'm going to talk about my program. And I got 4 days into that and I just thought, oh my God, I'm so sick of hearing myself talk about my program. I bet everyone else is. I have 8,000 followers on Instagram. When I go into my stories, maybe 200 people see those stories. So I guarantee anyone, if you go into who actually sees your post, who actually sees your reel, who's seeing your stories, not all of your followers are seeing all of your posts and stories. Maybe they're getting 25%. So just show up. Keep showing up, because the people who need you will just see it as a reminder to book a call or to register for the webinar. And the people who don't need your services will just swipe through. That's how I see it now. They'll just unfollow. It doesn't worry me. They weren't meant to work with me anyway.
Yeah, and that's really good advice. There are people who are not meant to see it, or they are just not in the right mindset. It may not even be your ideal client. It's okay to repel them. And that's what we want to get our marketing to, that you attract the right clients for your ideal clients, people you feel light up working with, and you start to repel the ones who are not your ideal client. And that's okay, because we got to remember at the end of the day, we cannot help everyone. Physically, we can't. We don't have the time, the mental energy to help everyone. So why not spend the time that we have working with those people who needs our help the most, who are the people that you're best at solving that problem for. And that's the power of niching, that you attract the right people, you repel the wrong ones. And you said there, Kate, that you just kept showing up because you knew that people need to hear it multiple times. And some people may not even see your story the day you post it. So if we don't talk about it until the end of your launch, you're going to miss so many opportunities where people can hear about your program. And sometimes they're thinking about it as well. And one thing that we observe is our clients that often comes through, they're what we call lurkers. So they lurk around the background, they check out the stories, they check out our emails, they read stuff, but they're not often the ones who are actively commenting and engaging. And so that's something to remember as well. And I don't know if you noticed that with your crowd as well, where not everyone's fully engaging all the time.
Absolutely. And I see a big trend in lots of saves happen on posts and reels, much more so than comments. People are like saving information going, that's really important. I'll get back to that. But none of us ever do. So you have to continually present it.
Yeah, cool. That's really good advice. So we got to continue to share that and remember that engagement comes in many ways in social media. They could be saving it. They could be sharing it with your family. They could be thinking about it. And, you go, the post that you put out, the content, it's designed to plant the seed, to shift your mindset. And then when it comes launch time, the right people who you've been doing the work nurturing is then going to go step across the line and say, yep, I'm ready now. Tell me more about how you can help me. And that's the ones who will, what we call, they will just whisk through because they know you are ready. So when they get on the discovery call, they're like, yep, Kate, I'm so ready. I've been following you for years. Tell me how you can help me. And that is the perfect scenario where you've done the work, the legwork in the pre-launch period or even in the pre-launch period to warm up your audience so they're ready to buy. Now, I've got one more question for you, Kate, which I think actually two-part to this question about readiness. So first part is a lot of people say, how do I know when it's the right time for me to create a program? Like people who have been sitting on it, thinking about it for a long time. What advice do you have for them? So if we're thinking about the practitioners out there who are busy, they're already working with clients, what advice do you have for them in terms of when's the right time to get started?
Oh, now?
Like yesterday?
When you first started resenting having to write treatment plans, the first sign of burnout, now. Start now. If you're at the point where you are struggling with that work-life balance, if that's starting to make you feel a bit sick, that's how I felt. I was starting to get to that point where I'm trying to juggle this, and now I've been able to juggle this for a while, but now I'm actually doing a really bad job of it, and everyone's suffering. So if you want to be able to do your job in a way that makes you feel happy, then absolutely think about a program and don't wait for the perfect time. I did nothing perfectly. As I said, I still don't have a sales page.
But yet you've already helped so many people and like brought in so much revenue from launching imperfectly.
Absolutely. And
That's
able to
incredible.
support my clients, because now when I do my fortnightly group calls with my program members, if enough of the same question comes up, or someone goes, oh, you know what would be really useful if I had this resource or these recipes? And I can go, I'll look into that and I will make that available for you in the bonus section. So not only am I calmer, less deadlines, which was a big stress inducing job for me, is the deadlines. I'm managing that around my family. But not only do I have much less stress, I am really able to personalize and support my members through a program, which I don't think people think how personal you can get within a group program. But I'm able to do that so much more without feeling burnt out. And I'm now planning for growth. September last year, I was like, I need to grow, but I just can't see where that happens without killing myself. So now I'm planning out my 2 years growth from here and being really happy about
Amazing.
it.
Because you have that space.
I have the space.
That's it.
I have the space, and the confidence also, and thank you, Charlene, the confidence that if I just do the steps, if I go from A to B to C, it will work. And
Absolutely.
if it doesn't work perfectly, I take the information from what didn't work and I just do better next time. That's incredibly confidence inspiring.
Yeah. You've got it, Kate. That is, well, credit to you for sticking through with the process and knowing that sometimes when you're working through things, you're like, I just can't see that light. At the end of the tunnel, it feels like the result that I want finishing that course is so far away, but you stuck through with the process and you trusted the process. And that is that entrepreneurs need to have, because we have so many ideas, so sometimes we bounce from one thing to the next thing, but you just kept your head in the sand and you kept working through, you followed the process, and just in 1 year, less than a year, look at where you're at and the space that you've created for yourself so you can be creative and get back into your zone of genius and work on those things that really light you up. And now planning for growth as well. So before we finish off, Kate, I want to talk about the mindset piece about launching and growing a business. I'm sure you've learned lots of valuable lessons along the way, and I'd love for you to share maybe 2 or 3 of the key lessons that you've learned that you can share with someone who's perhaps thinking about pivoting the business, wanting to go into the online course program space, or those who are going through launching right now and they feel like, oh, why is it so hard for me? What advice do you have for them?
A couple of things stick out. The first one is make your launch plan and stick to it. And I followed the launch plan in Momentum Club and I just stuck to it. I didn't let emotions get in the way. I just did everything that I had scheduled each day. That absolutely helps. And the other thing is actually from the launch mindset lesson in Momentum Club. There was a couple of things I wrote down from that lesson, and I think I watched it about 3 or 4 times before my first launch. But it was like detach from the outcome. Just go through the process, go through the launch, detach from the outcome, and be confident about how much you can help people. Because
That
in the
is so
end,
powerful.
people, and so we need to be healthy as well.
Yeah. I love that. That advice is so incredibly powerful, just detaching from the outcome. And I want to add on to that as well, because often, even if you're not in the launching phase, like you are growing your business, you're seeing clients, you may be working with them in consults or packages, and you're putting yourself out there. And sometimes we attach our self-worth to how much money we're making each month, how many clients we're signing. If we don't hit that goal, we make it wrong about ourselves. There's something wrong with me. People don't like me, or like we create all these stories in our head. Am I too salesy? Is it my pricing? All these things. And then we make the wrong decisions because it's based on our emotions, right? And so this is so incredibly powerful to keep on and hold on to no matter which stage of business you're at, you just got to remember that your business is not you. It does not determine your self-worth. And if something doesn't go according to plan, we might think that we've failed miserably. If say, okay, you didn't hit your goal. Some people will make it wrong about them and say, okay, this is terrible. I'm going to shut this program down and go spend months creating the next one. But it's not always that. We take a step back, and I always get my clients, when you finish a launch, go do the launch debrief. Fill out that spreadsheet that we've got for you so you can sit down, look at the numbers, and sometimes the numbers are actually not that bad, right? Like you may not hit your launch goal because maybe you didn't get enough people into your webinar funnel. So then the next launch, we work on growing your list and getting more people through to your webinar funnel. So yeah, detaching yourself from the outcome and making decisions that are not based on the emotions, but based on the metrics. So I hope that everyone will remember this and take this away. Now, Kate, I've really enjoyed our conversations together today. Thank you so much for being so generous with your time and taking our audience behind the scenes of your business and looking at breaking down all the stats as well. It is very insightful, I think, for someone who is maybe at the start of journey, wanting to do what you're doing, or people who are launching right now and not seeing the results that they want, to know that things are still working, like webinars are still working. Launching is so crucial. But besides launching, we also talk about evergreen funnels as well. And that's something that we won't have time to cover today, but we'll talk about that if I can get you back next time for another episode, so our clients can learn how they can continuously get clients and their business is not just reliant on the live launches. So thank you so much for your time today, Kate. I really appreciate you. Now, can you just quickly let our audience know if they want to connect with you, where do they go?
Oh, I would love to connect with people. The best place to do that is on Instagram at ibs.sibo.nutritionist.
Amazing. So it's ibs.sibo.nutritionist. I'll make sure to link it in the show notes as well below. Thank you so much once again, Kate. You take care.
My pleasure, Charlene.
Thank you.